Hi guys, this is gsndom.com and I'm here with the Nokia X, the very first Nokia phone with Android on board. We have the dual SIM model here and, as I said, the very first handset with Nokia branding and Android installed. Obviously it's a customized Android, and I have to go back in time and say that this model was announced in February and launched in March. It was actually announced at Mobile World Congress 2014, and if you're wondering about the price tag, well, this model is available in emerging countries for about $120. As far as the design goes, well, it's a bit like a Lego cube. As you can see, it's very blocky. It measures 10.4 millimeters in thickness and it weighs 128.7 grams. It has a pretty good grip. It sits well in the user's hand, and it's not very remote from the Lumia's and Asha's design. I have to say that the removable cover from around the device is easier to remove compared to the Nokia Lumia 520, but you will need some pretty big fingernails to do that. Okay, so here we go. I'm trying to remove it right here. This is actually an interchangeable cover, so you can replace it with similar covers but with various colors. I just praised it for being easier to remove, and I'm trying to prove that by removing it. Here we go. Okay, so this is the interchangeable cover I was talking about. It comes in a variety of colors, and this is what's under the hood. We got the battery slot here, we have the two micro SIM card slots, and between them there is the micro SD card slot. That's it. I'm putting it back. Okay, so overall it looks pretty much like an Asha, like a Nokia Asha device, and the battery cover is wrapped around the body. It's not exactly a cover. Underneath you already saw what's happening. This is a plasticky case, it's made of plastic, and at the front side we have this singular capacitive button right here, this back button, also the earpiece here at the top above the Nokia logo, and close to the earpiece we have the ambient light sensor and the proximity sensor that you cannot see. There's also a little bit of a microphone right here. I don't know if you can see it, a small hole. Well, that's the microphone. On the right side we have the on-off button and volume buttons. All three of them are pretty comfy and offer good feedback, while at the top you'll find the audio jack right here. At the back we got the camera, we got the speaker, while at the bottom we got the micro USB port. Okay, this is a simple design, it works, and the handset feels pretty resilient. I actually dropped it a bunch of times and it survived without problems. Which is not what I can say about the lock screen that was just stuck for a bit. Okay, now as far as the hardware is concerned, we got a Snapdragon S4 Play processor. This one is a dual-core Cortex A5 1GHz CPU, and the GPU is an Adreno 205. The display here is a 4-inch IPS LCD with a resolution of 480 over 800 pixels. We also have a micro SD card slot supporting up to 32 GB of extra storage, and the internal storage is 4 GB, but you can only get 1.2 GB for user access. The RAM is 512 MB. On the connectivity side we have HSDPA with 7.2 Mbps connectivity, we have Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth 3.0, micro USB is also available here, and this is a dual SIM, dual standby handset. The camera at the back is a 3.15 megapixel unit without a flash and without autofocus. We have a proximity sensor, accelerometer, FM radio, and finally a lithium-ion battery with a capacity of 1500 mAh. On paper, this battery is supposed to provide 408 hours of standby, 13 hours of talk time, or 26 hours of music. By the way, the SAR level of the phone is 1.30 watt per kilogram. Now let's see how the battery did in our usual test, which involves HD video playback with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 50%. Here we are in the screenshots area, and we actually monitored the way the battery was going down. Here we are, 99%, and after 1 hour and 28 minutes, 52%, after 2 hours and 31 minutes, 14%, and finally we reached 3 hours and 14 minutes of HD video playback. The charging takes 2 hours and 10 minutes, and all of these figures are pretty close to the ones of the Nokia Lumia 520, and I would say it's okay considering the price of this device. Some people may be unhappy that they only get 3 hours and 14 minutes of HD playback, but as I said, if you got that price and that battery, that's the sacrifice you're willing to make. A thing that bothered me is the lack of power saving options, so we found none, but you can download an app that does that probably. Okay, now as far as the audio is concerned, we got music right here, we got FM radio and mixed radio, and let's actually listen to a tune. Okay, I would say that this is pretty loud and pretty clear. We have a custom player over here. As you can see, the music is organized into songs that we can play, into albums and into playlists if you want. There's also this area right here that you can access, and if you're in a song and you're playing it, you can actually swipe up and get some options like assign as a ringtone, add to playlist, or check out the equalizer. That is pretty much the stock experience from Android. Here we go, you can mess with the high notes or low notes, do some bass boost, 3D effects, and that's all the equalizer action you get. Okay, I would have to say that the bass is pretty decent on this device, the volume is pretty loud, and the sound is pretty clear, and it's a nice way to show the volume at the top through that bar. Now let's check out the headphones. We got a pair of red headphones bundled with this model. They're pretty much the exact same thing like the headphones bundled with the Nokia Lumia 520. They're pretty big for one's ear, they won't exactly fit. However, their volume is very good, but the bass feels a bit too much, it drowns the song. So too much bass, it's bad, and they're not very comfy. Okay, so overall the audio is pretty much close to the Nokia Lumia 520, which is a bit better in the audio chapter, but the two are reasonably close. We actually used a special test sample. This one is a special test sample with various hertz settings, and let's see how many decibels we achieved. Sorry if we killed your ears with that. Here we go, this is our decibel meter, and we achieved 86.4 decibels by running a special file in the range of 30, 60, 240, 480 and 960 Hz. Okay, so that was it. Pretty good audio for such a device. We also have FM radio, and for that I'm going to have to bring back the headphones just for a little bit. Okay, so this is the FM radio feature. Connect the headphones. Here we go. You can change the frequency. Various options here like scanning, settings, sleep, stereo output or mono output if you want, regional bands, reset, and as I said, sleep feature in a certain amount of time. Okay, you also have a mixed radio that sadly does not work in my region, or it didn't last time I checked. As you can see, it doesn't work. Okay, so as I said, good audio, warm voice, and a pretty nifty audio experience for a device that's so cheap. Now I'm going to test the video skills of this device and its display, and by doing that I'm going to need the YouTube video from our channel, this one. Here we go, we're watching a video on our YouTube channel, gsndon.com. As I said, the screen is a 4-inch IPS LCD with a resolution of 480 over 800 pixels, which translates to 233 ppi. We have RGB pixels, pretty vivid colors, and this may not be the brightest display I have ever seen, but it does its job pretty well, and games like Asphalt 8 look pretty okay. The contrast is decent, the screen doesn't behave perfectly in sunlight, and the lux level is about 232 lux units. We have pretty good viewing angles, as you can see. For an IPS, I would say they're pretty good. You don't miss much of the action. Let's go straight to the home area, and now let me show you some of our tests performed on this screen. Okay, so we got here the lux meter. that shows 232 lux units for this display. Overall, it's a good screen for this price, and you can actually tweak its settings. The settings are not exactly related to the experience, rather than the gestures you can use to activate it. So this is the display area. We got brightness, wallpaper, auto rotate, sleep, and this is the screen double tap. So you tap the screen twice to wake the phone up. I'm activating it, and now let's see if it actually works. This time it worked. It has to be a more serious tap, like the times of the resistive screens. Okay, I'm deactivating this one, and the glance screen that you already know from the Windows Phone Lumias has been available for quite a while now, and you can check out its timeout, and let's actually see the glance screen. It's showing you information on the screen like the date and time, notifications, missed calls, emails, and all that. Okay, deactivating this. So that's pretty much everything I had to say about the screen. You can also change font size, and that was glance. Overall, the colors are pretty vivid. You have RGB pixels, brightness is decent, and the view angles are quite good. Now, as far as the camera goes, I have to say this is a bit of a letdown. I'm pretty sure that Nokia could have implemented a 5 megapixel camera here, but they went with a 3.15 megapixel shooter, resolution 2048 over 1536. That's the maximum one. There is no autofocus, there is no LED flash, nothing like that, and it uses fixed focus, but Nokia promised a larger field depth to compensate for the lack of autofocus. Okay, now I'm entering the camera interface. There are actually quite a few options to enjoy here, so at least that's good. We have a 1/5 of an inch sensor, that's the size, and you can only do 480p video maximum at 30 frames per second. There is no front camera, obviously, and the UI involves the following option. We have a decent frame rate in the UI, I have to say that from the start, and this is the zoom, working without lag, which is always a good thing. Okay, so options. We got white balance with options like auto, incandescent, daylight, fluorescent, and cloudy. Then comes the exposure, and then come the big settings. Okay, so we got anti-banding, we got ISO going up to 400, we got noise reduction, phase detection, saturation with 11 levels to play with, contrast, yet again 11 levels to play with, and sharpness that offer you 7 levels of customization. We have automatic exposure with 3 settings, frame average, center weighted, spot metering, save location, picture size, you can tweak it if you want, picture quality, I would stay with super fine, some color effects to mess with, mono, sepia, negative or aqua, shutter sound, and save image to the microSD card slot or the internal storage. So these are pretty much the photo taking options of this device. On the right side of the screen we got the shutter button and the modes. We got the photo taking, video taking and panorama, but let's actually take a picture of this castle so you can see the device in action. This is the picture I've just taken. As you can expect, there's a lot of noise, not many details. After all, it's a 3 megapixel camera, so let's cut it some slack. As I said, the modes include video and panorama taking. And now I'm going to take you straight to the gallery, leaving aside the castle for now. I have taken about a few dozens of pictures. Curious to see what the camera is doing. As you can see, a lot of beautifully colored flowers. However, the device is not a very good picture taker, sadly. Although it was a perfect day with perfect clouds and perfect flowers, I wish I had a better phone with me. Of course, on this tiny screen with the small resolution, the pictures look great, but when you port them to your computer, you'll see that there's a lot of noise, a lot of blur, and the colors are totally unrealistic. The noise level is high, and the pictures that are taken in the sun are very burnt. There is oversaturation. If you're patient enough, some of them are actually quite good. It's below the Nokia Lumia 520 if you really want a comparison. The panorama is pretty good actually. The panorama will have a resolution of 2500 over 500 pixel or something like that. Here it is. This is the panorama. This one is burnt as well because of the sun. And you can forget about macro, I give you that much. I have tried my share of macros with this handset, couldn't achieve them. This is one of the attempts. As I said, beautiful day, unrealistic colors. I would say that the pictures are not very good, but we have to be happy with what we have on this device. For a price tag of $120, I would say that a 3 megapixel camera is enough, but once again, Nokia could have put a 5 megapixel camera and people would have been happier. And now back to the camera, to the video mode. Here we go. Video option with its very own settings and options like white balance, time-lapse interval, video quality. Here we got FW VGA, we got WVGA, SD VGA and WQ VGA. Then the options like save location, video encoder, nice option this one, MPEG-4, H.263 or 264, audio encoder, these two options, AM, RNB and AAC, video duration, color effects to apply, power modes, normal or when the battery goes low, and save videos to the storage or not. Okay, so these are all the options we have available, and if I complained about the photos, you're probably expecting me to complain about the videos, which I will do. But let's see some of them in action first. You'll shoot your videos in 3GP. This is one of them. Let's check it out. Here's a video shot with this device. It's not very impressive, it's a 3GP, the level of detail is totally unimpressive. By the way, the camera offers f2.8 aperture, at least the colors are okay this time, contrast is also okay. And let's try to check out another video. The proverbial lag, and let's try this one. I tried to capture them in 480p at 30 frames per second, at least the frame rate is good, the colors are good, and the contrast is good. Still, that does not mean I'm happy with it, especially since I remember exactly how the Nokia Lumia 520 took videos and I was pretty impressed by that. At the end, when you're done playing with the camera and the fact that it's a bit disappointing, you can also try to edit your pics. So you choose this one for example, and you tap it, you press this button and you'll see the usual stock editing options like this one, highlights, shadows, autofix, excuse me, fill light, cross-processing, posterize, low-mo, documentary, vignette, film, fisheye, and then warm, saturation, black and white, sepia, negative, so filters. Then comes the cropping, red eye and straightening, so all the options predictable for this phone. Overall, the camera was sacrificed for the sake of a lower price, and once again I am feeling that Nokia could have really put a better camera here. Moving on to greener pastures, let's check out the temperature. So after playing 15 minutes of games on this device, we achieved a temperature of 38.2 degrees Celsius, which means the device does not suffer from overheating, which is a good thing if you really want to play games like Asphalt 8 or Riptide GP. We move over to the browser. This is the standard browser here, the Nokia browser based on Chromium. I would say it's reasonably fast. As you can see, the browser bar is at the bottom, and if you want to access gsndom.com, here we go. At first glance, it may not seem like a fast browser, but if you keep using it for a few days, you'll see that it's actually quite fluid. This is the tab system, not this one. Proverbial lag strikes back. So as I said, the tab system. This is how you alternate between tabs. For example, if you want to open Facebook and then you want to see the tabs, it goes something like this. Okay, you also have those options triggered by the menu, like share, recent and settings. In the settings area we have clear private data, save passwords and about, so not many settings here. Let's do a bit of scrolling in the page. Let's try to check out the page in landscape. And finally some pinch to zoom. Okay, so this is the web browsing experience. By the way, if you check out this area, you'll see that the address bar is also a search bar powered by Bing, as you can see by that logo there. And by the way, this is the keyboard. It feels pretty cramped for my big fingers. I'm barely typing. However, if I want to write faster, I'm going to use a system that's pretty much resembling swipes. So if I want to write phone, as you can see, I've written phone. If I want to write tablet, here we go, tablet. So pretty intuitive, pretty nice. We're done with the writing. So the keyboard is cramped, but swipe saves it. If you don't like the standard browser, we also have Opera pre-installed in the device. It's available right here. Many people are familiar with it. It has not died, it keeps on living, and it was a big deal back in the days when Nokia had Symbian and such. We also have a phone feature here, obviously. This is a dual SIM phone. It doesn't have smart dialing, and the calls are loud, clear, the signal is very good, so no problems here whatsoever. Call settings, keypad tones, proximity sensor turned on, speed dial settings, voicemail, and all that. You may have speed dial, but you don't have smart dial. I'm going to move over to the benchmarks. People may have thought that because of the fact you do not have Google Play Store, you also cannot have benchmarks, but I used another store and got the tests, and here they are. I decided to compare this model especially with the Sony Xperia E1 because the price is pretty similar, at least in some countries. Okay, so the Nokia X scored a pretty low 2730 points. It's above the Motorola Atrix 4G or the Galaxy Nexus, but below the Xperia E1. It's trying to connect to the email right now, so let's silence it. So once again in quadrant 2730 and below the Xperia E1 that scores double the points. Next up it's Antutu, where we scored 7521 while the Xperia E1 scores 30k points. So 13k points versus 7000 points, not very impressive. Nanomark 29.7 frames per second we scored with this model. There's no comparison here, I haven't found other benchmarks of rivals. In Velamo we scored 1145 in the HTML5 test, while the Xperia E1 scores 1885. 3D Mark, pretty low score, 2370. Next up GFX Bench, 1.4 frames per second in the off-screen 1080p test. By the way, Geekbench 3 does not work on this device. We had a pretty good surprise in the download area. In the speed test we got 20 mega per second download, 21 in upload, so that's pretty impressive. It's about on the same level with an iPhone or an HTC One, so that's good. Very low score in SunSpider, 2490, the lower the better, and the Xperia E1 had 1575. Finally BrowserMark, it has been updated and the score is very bad, 291, so overall it's a pretty weak device in the benchmarks and it's below the Xperia E1, but at least it can fluently run Asphalt 8 and Riptide GP2, so at least there's that if the benchmarks aren't impressive. On the software side we have Android 4.1.2 with the Nokia X software platform 1.0 applied on top of it. There are no Google services on this device, there is no Gmail, there is no Play Store, there is no Google Plus, so none of that. We have a custom Nokia launcher, as you can see, that offers you a slight bit of lag appearing sometimes. It's that extra bit of lag that separates this model from a real smartphone. I have to say that if you change the launcher, you'll actually find the experience satisfying, but the lag is a bit omnipresent in the experience. The Nokia interface reminds me of Asha and Windows Phone combined. As you can see, we got tiles all over the place. They're actually selectable, so if I want to select this one, I keep it pressed, and then three options appear. I can make it go away, I can change its size, just like on Windows Phone, and I can change its color if I want. These are not live tiles, so they're not dynamic, in case you're wondering. This is not Windows Phone, it's not that kind of tile selection. You can also create folders, so like this folder right here that I filled with benchmarks. Once you select a certain application, you also have an option here to create folders, and you have an option to add widgets. These are the widgets you can add. They're pretty much the same from any Android phone, so I'm not very impressed by that. We actually have a widget here, this one, the Test Killer widget. It comes in handy when the device tends to get laggy. All the apps are on the home screen, so you can see them listed here. Handy. There aren't any widget screens or app screens, there is one big list right here in your face. Next up, if you swipe to the side, you will trigger something called Fast Lane. That reminds me of the Asha series. Well, Fast Lane is basically a huge collection of notifications, so to say. It keeps track of everything. Recent activity like installed apps, accessed web pages, picture taken, social networking, posts, the apps you entered, the songs you played. So basically everything you do is logged in the fast lane area, and you can actually customize it so it won't show so much information and confuse you. Go to the settings, select fast lane, and manage your history. Select what to show and what not to show, and if you want to get notifications or not. Okay, we also, speaking of notifications, we have a pull down status bar right here. It can show you notifications and the quick toggles for connectivity and such, plus a shortcut to the setting. There are also contextual menus like the one you saw earlier for the pics. Also, if I'm on Twitter, for example, I can use that. So I'm going to go to the gallery, go to the camera, and I should be able to see this is the contextual menu. That's what I'm talking about. It appears in most apps. Is that lost menu button that we don't have on this device. It appears down right here, and you pull it up and a new collection of options will open up. This back button doesn't only work as a back button, so if you're deep inside an app and caught within the features, you can keep it pressed to go back home or to the area you wanted to go. Okay, so now let's check out the settings actually. Here we are, we got Wi-Fi settings, Bluetooth, a data counter showing you how many gigabytes you downloaded from the web and what were the downloads about, mobile data and networks options, flight mode, SIM options, dual SIM settings, sounds and vibration, ringtones, keypad tones, vibrate on touch, storage options, battery, apps, notification options like show banners and stuff like that, fast lane, location, security, backup and reset, accounts, accessibility, and finally developer options like on any modern Android device. And I have to say that on the lock screen you'll get your notifications as well. So they're listed on the screen. I can swipe them to enter them, or I can swipe them to the other side to simply get rid of them. Okay, and by the way, if you're in this home screen and you pull gently the screen down, you can see a search area just like on iOS. Okay, now let's talk about the app stores. We don't have the Google Play Store, so we have alternatives. We have the Slide Me Market alternative, and we have the One Mobile Market alternative that I quite actually like. I'm getting used to it. It has much of the content from the Play Store, so I was happy to get my benchmarks from here at least. So Slide Me Market, One Mobile Market, we got the Nokia Store. I was surprised to see that this one didn't require me to have any special account to start downloading stuff. I downloaded NBA Jam for it, and you can actually get the One Mobile Market from it. So that's pretty cool. And also Kaspersky Mobile Security. And now onwards to another thing I would like to mention. This handset, the Nokia X, does very fast downloads. Sometimes when I'm downloading an app from the Nokia store, I'm surprised by how fast it downloads, so the download is very fast here. Now on to the application. As I said, we got phone, people, messaging, internet, store, we got email, pretty typical email client, the basic one here. You can organize stuff into folders. Then we got Skype, Facebook, we got Twitter. I'm talking here mostly about pre-installed apps. I'm not going to show the ones I installed, there's no point in that. By the way, there's a huge amount of pre-installed apps, including games like Danger Dash. And finally, the most important applications of all, Here Maps, Nokia Here Maps. We get public transport here, directions, voice guidance, you can download maps and various voice packages. This is the experience, these are the layers, satellite traffic, public transport, terrain, map, and everything you like. Then we got the special areas like Nokia Drive, sign in, settings, units, clear history, traffic improvement. The traffic info is only available in these countries. The list does not seem to include mine, so let's go further. This is the driving area. You can set a destination, recent destinations, favorites, contacts, route settings, day, night, drive. So pretty complex app on such a small phone. We have 2D or 3D graphics, day or night, speed limit warning, and voice navigation plus country navigation. You can search for an address, get a route to it, and that's what I'm doing right now. It may not be the fastest in the world, but at least it will take you where you want to go. And you also have voice guidance. The searching takes a bit, and this is the place I want to go. I press this option here, it's creating a route, shows me the mileage, and this is it in 2D, 3D, and by the type of roads I want to choose. Okay, back to the home area. I kept the back button pressed. We're here with the calculator, the calendar, pretty basic one, nothing fancy. You can see the week, the day, and things like that. And we have lots of games pre-installed here: Fruit Ninja, Real Football, Kingdoms and Lords, Tetris, SimCity Deluxe, Bejeweled, Wonder Zoo, and many more. We don't only have games pre-installed, but also apps like the Astro File Manager that some of you may find useful. Here we go, accept. You can connect to your clouds if you want to. And you can check out your local network, your SD card. So it's a pretty nice to use file manager. Then we got Viber for people who use that. I don't. And we got WeChat, Opera, OneDrive, mobile broadcast, and the rest of the apps I installed myself. So that's pretty much the list of pre-installed applications here. Keep in mind, we don't have multitasking on this device. There's no way to multitask on this phone. And I have to mention it again that it runs both Asphalt 8 and Riptide GP2, so it handles modern games pretty well. Mixed radio also won't work, at least in my country. The verdict is that we're dealing with a hybrid between Asha, Windows Phone, and a bit of Android on board. And now the verdict. So on the Pro side, so we start with the pros and cons. On the Pro side, we got a low price, $120. This is Android in an affordable package, and still it's a Nokia phone. We have pretty good audio experience, pretty decent headphones, a nice fast lane feature. I actually like this feature called fast lane. The display is what I would call decent. It runs modern games. It has more customization than Windows Phone. You can play with launchers and really customize your experience, so that's a plus from Windows Phone. We have very fast downloads. There's a low learning curve, so that's good, and lots of pre-installed games if you're into that. On the con side, obviously the camera is a big no-no, the battery is a big no-no, the design is not totally impressive, it's like a blocky Lego piece, there is no multitasking, there are no Google services, the UI may be laggy at times, and finally you only get 1.2 gigabytes of actual storage to use on this device. And now I'm going to give it some grades. Let me start with the design. For the design, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. For the hardware, 8 out of 10 again. And for the operating system and user interface, 8.3. The final grade is 8.1 out of 10 here at gsnno.com. I, frankly speaking, would buy the Nokia Lumia 520 over this model, or maybe the Sony Xperia E1. Once again, the price tag is $120, and a person who ever touched an Android phone in his life would not choose this model. People call it a castrated Android because it lacks some of the main features of Android. So you either go with Windows Phone or this model that's a castrated Android, or a full-fledged Android if you really want it. If you've never touched an Android phone in your life, this may be the phone for you. You can start with it. It's cheap, it has a low learning curve, and it may be fit for you. Nokia X here at gsnno.com, 8.1 out of 10. Bye bye.